Gotta love this time of year. Only one can be champion. Let's go playoff racing! I said, hey, there's no surrender. Never hear my battle
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
The teams and the drivers' championships may have been decided, but as Acosta gets ready to take a victory lap today around Suzuka, his teammate still has a chance to clinch second. Diaz and Modoff remain incredibly close, and it now becomes a question of whether Obsidian Racing can seal up a 1-2 in the drivers' championship. This Japanese track has and will make or break drivers' hopes as we get ready to watch the final round of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Young. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Adam, Suzuka is a pretty fitting place to wrap up the championship, don't you think?
It is. You know, many champions have been crowned at Suzuka in the past, and today, of course, will be no different. We're running the full Grand Prix 17 course layout here. As Suzuka has been a thing for about as long as anybody can remember, 1962. It is, in my opinion, some people might disagree, but in my opinion, this is the premier racetrack in Japan because, well, for me, I got introduced to it way back in 1996 when Winston Cup came here and actually ran an exhibition race after the season is over. So it has been in my mind for a long time. It was my first real introduction into road course racing, so it holds a special place for me as well. But let's go ahead and take a lap around in the GSRC car.
All right, we're in the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Suzuka. Down into turn 1, balancing the car on the brakes is going to be very tricky. While passes may happen into here, taking it too wide will probably make for some hair-raising situations. Drivers who know how to get the most out of the car by dancing it on the edge of control will be the ones to find the most speed. Power off the corner and quickly you're into the S's. It's important to keep the racing line or else you'll lose gobs of time. Try to set up each subsequent corner with a tight exit from the previous one. Eventually, around this final right-hander, you really want to line yourself up because you need a nice wide entry into the Dunlop curve. It's not quite flat out on the way in, so don't be surprised if drivers understeer wide into the sand. You'll start to gain a bit of speed, but hug the left side and gather all your bravery for Degner 1. Then, you get a small squirt of the gas and you're braking hard for Degner 2. Tuck it all the way down to the inside curb and swing it all the way out wide to help carry a lot more speed. Now, the little kink on the entry to the hairpin makes it tough to tell whether the person ahead will defend or not, so be aware. This slow, tight corner is best taken with a squared-off late apex to make sure you get a nice launch. This is another part of the track where you start to pick up a lot of speed, and while you might think that opens up a chance to pass into the next braking zone, Spoon is something of an awkward middle ground. You definitely got to throw out the anchors, but it's still pretty fast on your way in. Besides, the second apex is what's really important and possibly the most critical corner exit of the circuit. With it leading onto the uphill backstretch, every ounce of momentum makes a difference in your lap time, and you really don't want it to put you in a tight spot anyways. If your opponent gets a run on you, you're left with a difficult decision on if you want to try 130R side by side. Unless it's the last lap, I'd say preserve the car. It needs a tiny brush on the brakes and a lot of bravery, but it also dumps you right into the braking for the Casio Triangle. This is one of the most popular places to get a pass done. Though you can get pretty on top of the curbs, you might find that applying the throttle needs a gentle right foot. Wheel spin will definitely be your enemy because now we've come back to the pit straight. Hopefully, you've kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Suzuka. About the most you're going to see of this track because, as is obvious, for the second week in a row, we have a night race on our hands. This time in Japan instead of out in France. But as always, today's race is brought to you by SIMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at simsa.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products create an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. The winner of Division 1 here in the PRL GTE Sports Car Series will get a ButtKicker Gamer 2 or a simulation kit. Also, both drivers of the winning team in the team's championship will get a free t-shirt. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. While we let them complete their qualifying laps out in the dark, Adam, I mentioned that the Drivers' Championship is settled up at the top, but what about the drivers behind Acosta?
Yeah, let's kind of take a look at that, and make no mistake about it. Abner Acosta is still going to go out there today, and he's going to try to win this thing. I mean, he's sitting fourth in qualifying right now. He'd love to cap off the season with the win, but the race is behind him. Diaz and Modaf only separated here by 4 points. So really, it's going to be a matter of who's going to finish ahead of who, and maybe Obsidian Racing can get that 1-2 there in the driver's standings. Don't forget, though, still pretty tight back there for fourth and fifth with Eisler and Hefner as well. There's only 8 points between them. So every single spot except for the first spot in your top five can change hands here today. All right, let's go take a look at those team standings as well. Obsidian Racing, of course, pretty dominating performance for those guys out there. They're going to come out 139 points going into this over Bushfink Copper and Racing Sim Tools Podium Hunters. But those two teams there with Uribe, Eisler, Hefner, and Orion, they're good lock dead heat right now for second there. So who's going to come home with second place in the team standings here for season 17? Well, watch here in the dark in Suzuka. You're going to find out. And fourth and fifth, well, they're pretty much locked there in as far as the Kokomo Racing team. Excuse me if I'm messing that up. Sassy Apps Autosport Blue, though, they're in the fifth position as well. So those are your driver standings and your team standings, Joe.
Now, what about this race in particular? Let's look at the race details for how today plays out. As we mentioned, the final round, they do have one drop week, but the big thing is they don't get to use that in this race. They make sure that it is easy for us in the booth and you, the fans, to figure out how things will settle out. It is a 60-minute race, as it's been all season long, which means, as usual, we have one scheduled pit stop due to the restricted fuel cells. They're not like the real GTE cars that you can use of the 4 different types they have here on iRacing. They've limited that fuel cell to make sure that they are forced to make a fuel stop at least once in this race. They have an incident cap, and there's plenty of places around here where it's easy to rack them up, especially in the dark where it's so hard to see. So they will be disqualified if they go over those 24 incidents. They also have no spare car in case they incur too much damage to continue racing. So in 60 minutes, it's hard to get too much repairs done. You got to keep things clean out there. As always, we're watching this on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe. All you got to do is go to their YouTube page or just go right below this video. You should see a big red button that says subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And if you click it, you won't miss a moment here in the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. Right now in that qualifying, Karl Modaf trying to come back and save a little bit of face. He left in mysterious fashion last round in France, but right now he is up on the pole. He didn't get to a time in qualifying last time around. But instead of Acosta, I note that it is Uribe that is behind him, Adam. So Acosta's going to have some work to do. And boy, Diaz, who is fighting for second with Modaf, is not putting himself in a good position currently.
Yeah, not so far here, but still very, very tight. The big thing right now is Modaf, he's 4 tenths up on Uribe and Acosta. and Carone there. So I mean, he's done himself a pretty good lap. I think he got a little bit of drafting help, but hey, it still counts in this scenario. But Joe, I really think that in addition to what's going on up the front, I really think the dark is going to play a role here today. It's like I tried to do some practice laps. I'd like to think that at Suzuka, I have a little bit of experience between the majors races, other races that I've done over the years. I've done a lot during the day. And now that it's dark, I mean, you're going to have simple things like the hairpin all of a sudden becomes, oh, you mean the track doesn't go straight here kind of thing? So it's going to be a very interesting race out there. And I really expect maybe this field to kind of get shaken up a little bit. It really could be anybody's race, especially if you're able to set a time within a second of the leader.
And Karen returns to take third away from Acosta temporarily. We'll see if Acosta can come back and try and retake that position. But you're right. You can see just how dark it is around here. We've got no ambient lighting from any source here in iRacing. So it is just your headlights to try and light the way. And the drivers can knock those headlights out. We've seen at Le Mans, even one of the drivers in another series that we cover, I believe it was an Autobahn, lost his headlights and could not see for the remaining bit of the race. He went in for repairs and his team didn't know to put the headlights back on the car. So as we watch Aroyan come around the final bit, let's see if he can improve on this 11th place. He crosses the line. No, time does not count. He had an off track there on his try.
Already seeing just how tough this is going to be, just even in the qualifying places. Now we're going to take a look here at Acosta, Florida driver, see what he's able to set here. Actually, he's getting ready to head down. Yeah, he's heading down the front straightaway here. See, it's so dark, even I'm having trouble picking out where everybody's at on the racetrack. It's going to be a trend here tonight. But it's going to have kind of lap time. Now we're looking at Corey Clark coming down the front straightaway here.
Clark, the teammate to Modov. His last lap also did not count. In fact, he's only had one timed lap. That's why you're seeing him down in 15th. Diaz, I think, was on a warm-up lap. Yes, indeed. I saw him go slow down the backstretch, and that last lap did not count for him. He has another one with only a single lap to his name here in qualifying. And with his clock now down to 2 minutes, he's only got this and possibly one more to try and put a faster lap down. So...
And he's capable of a faster lap, too. I mean, Corey Clark's capable of at least a half second faster. He should be up in the top 10, I think, in this thing. But you got to have a clean lap here, and it's hard.
So, Modov, let's see if he's got a clean lap. A 53.1 was his best. He comes across the line. Nope, he's not going to have a clean one that time by the Club West driver. Now on his final tour around here and qualifying. What about Valenzuela? Wow, a lot of drivers struggling with these off tracks. This is incredible. Actually,
Valenzuela, he got here late. He wasn't able to get any practice time on a race where, to be frank, I think practice time is very, very key.
I'm looking through just to see who has more than one lap down in qualifying, and a few do. Acosta's one of them. He's got his third lap is his best at a 53.5. So sitting in fourth place, he's on a good lap. Is this going to be better than what he's done prior, though? Up to the line. No, he is half a second off. So he's got to go around one more to try and improve his position there from the outside of row 2.
We got some other guys. Kita came across the line. Carone here. Let's see if he's able to improve his time. He's not able to. Hefner was not able to get a clean lap. Uribe, well, he actually improved his time there. Still holding on to second place, but at least it's a better time than what he had.
He's still 2/10 off Modov. Carl seems to be the driver to beat. I think he's come back and he wants to show he is still the man in this championship, even though he's lost his crown. This is Christian Eisler.
Eisler's on a hot lap here. See if he's able to come across. 53.5. Knocks off over a tenth of a second from what he had, but stays in fifth.
And the checkered flag comes out as well. So this is everybody wrapping things up. Corey Clark coming to the line. That one doesn't count for him. His teammate Modov also does not get one more. So only one shot there for Karl Modhoff, but he made it count, and he's put it on provisional pole. But we're waiting on the next driver to come across the line. That's actually going to be our new champion, Abner Acosta, who's coming out of Spoon right now. He's coming up the back stretch towards 130R. You talk about a terrifying turn that's probably worse in the dark. You are flying once you reach this corner, about 160 miles an hour. He is through there successfully. Then he woes it up, coming into the Casio Triangle. Remember, he's got about half a second to go to get up to Karl Modhoff in the qualifying times, even on his best lap. And this one is no better than his best, so he stays in fourth. Kita's the next one, who does improve, but only up to 15th. It's about 2 positions for him. Zach Hefner crosses the line. He gets a much better lap, but he stays down in 13th, only 1 position up for Zach. And I believe Eisler's already come across the line. We see him still continuing on. Let's see. Pretty sure, didn't he cross?
Yeah, I know. I can't remember if it was right before or right after the check flag came out here. That's been about 2 minutes now, Joe.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see if he sets a time here.
He's going to abandon it.
Coming down pit road.
That's it for him. Pete Mobrotten as well going to abandon his lap. Clark and Modhoff. Yep, those two have finished their qualifying time. So that is it for our field. It is set for the day for our final race of the season here in the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. So your starting order has Karl Modhoff on the pole and Pablo Uribe next to him on the front row. Andrew Caron comes back and attempts to try and take a win. I don't believe he's done it yet this season. His freshman season here in the series still could put one on the board. Starts from third. Abner Acosta, new champion, starts from fourth place. Christian Eisler will be P5 at the drop of the green. Then you've got Nick Harwood starting in sixth, ahead of second place in the championship points, but might lose it the way things are looking with his pace today. Michael Diaz in seventh. Then it's Lee Peterson in 8th position. Pete Mobrotten starts P9. Rounding out the top 10, it is going to be Sebastian Maciera.
Yeah, don't forget Karl Modhoff gets a bonus point there for the pole, so that's going to help out his second place in the championship hopes. Fernando Borda is going to go ahead and start in row 6 alongside Jeffrey Orion. Zachary Hefner and Michael Stogbauer will make up row 7. Row 8 is going to go to Takesha Kita and Corey Clark. Row 9, Rodrigo Munez and Kenneth Rodriguez. Matthew Tina and Cristobal Valenzuela will make up row 10. 20 cars took laps here today. 20 cars are going to start this race.
There are 3 different bonus points, and had to, because I realized I had made a small mistake on it, that it is correct about pole. It is also fastest lap that gets you a bonus, and then under 3 incident points get you a bonus. So 3 bonus points on tap, as well as potential win for Karl. He's ticked off one of the boxes. Let's see if he can get the other 2 as they start to grid up here for this 60-minute race today at Suzuka. Going to be well lit up on the backstretch as they grid up behind that Porsche pace car. But after that first lap and the cars start to spread out, it's going to get darker and darker for these cars, and relying on their own headlights to try and get around. You can see our pole sitter Karl Modhoff in that brightly multicolored car, looking to tie Acosta on wins at least. If he can take the win today, he's got 2 thus far against Acosta's 3, Adam.
Yeah, and one thing, too, going back to that bonus point for the 3X, if somebody finishes here today with less than 3X, I'm going to be impressed, because it's going to be so easy to just miss the mark a little bit, put a wheel off here, just because you're not able to see half your marks with the darkness. So it'll be very interesting out there, I think, today, as far as anybody getting that kind of bonus point. So game is on for the fastest lap. Don't forget, we went into this thing second and third, and the team standings is tied up. Second and third in the driver standings, only separated by just a couple of points. So a lot on the line here today, even though the championships are wrapped up.
All right, they take off now. Karl Modhoff leading them away. There's a very short pace lap here at Suzuka with them starting before 130R. All they got to do is weave their way through the Casio triangle, and then they take off down the front stretch because the pace car will peel off into that pit entry. Hopefully nobody has any problems making their way in there in the dark here. We have seen some strange incidents before with how narrow it is on that pit entry. Pace car's in there now. Karl Modhoff waiting patiently, stacking them up quite a bit. He's giving it some time before he gets on the throttle. Now he gets going. Green flag is out here in Suzuka for the final round of the season. It is a battle for second place. Uribe to the outside as Karen gets a good jump. Looking to the inside of turn 1. It is a fast entry into here side by side. Uribe is going to have to give it the ghost as we got a spin. Is that Acosta?
I believe that was Acosta.
Well, he's going to be glad he sealed up the championship last race because he goes all the way to last place. And I do not see Diaz having taken the grid. Well, that gets very interesting for Obsidian. Not sure why he didn't take it out there. So, your new order at the front of the field as they come through the S's is Modhoff ahead. Karen, second. Uribe, third. Nick Harwood now up into fourth. Just overtook Eisler, who rounds out your top 5 into the Degners.
Yeah, looking, still fights going on back behind, inside, deep into the field here from about 5th on back. Fernando Borda right now in 10th. He's holding off Sebastian Marcera, and they actually swap positions there right at the start of the race. But man, get big old jam up behind him. Zachary Hefner's involved in that, Michael Stobauer, and Jeffy Orion as well. So no contact, but man, they got tight.
Peterson and Mo Broughton also came together with a tiny bit of contact. Oh, and more contact as Peterson gets tipped into the barriers. Mo Broughton goes off course. So that sends both of them all the way to the tail of the field, but Peterson with significant damage with that hit. Boy, the darkness is already gobbling them up. They're just about done with the first lap.
Yeah, and I've been watching Leif Peterson since the accident. He's just sitting there struggling to try to get back to pit road to get some of that fixed. So far, it seems like other than those, couple of incidents, we're okay for the most part. But Karl Modhoff, though, he has not been able to run away from Andrew Caron yet here, as well as Uribe. They're both pretty much nose to tail here within about 4 to 5 tenths of a second of each other.
Podium has definitely separated themselves. They've got about 2 seconds back to Harwood. There you see the battle for first and that big gap once you get to 4th place. You're right. This is interesting that despite his extra pace in qualifying, it seems like Modhoff is being challenged. We jump back to 7th place where we got a nice little battle. Marcera ahead of Hefner and Stogauer. You were looking at these three a little bit earlier. They come through Degners 1 and 2 as well. Stogauer looking really strong. Look at that. Oh, doesn't go
he's
for the
all
pass,
over
though.
the back. Hefner there.
Yeah, Hefner guarding off the inside just slightly into the hairpin. Right on board with the Ferrari, looking back at the BMW of Stogauer. Coming up the spoon with the more critical corner exits of the lap coming onto the backstretch. What has Michael got underneath him? Oh, he struggles big time. Look at all he lost there.
And getting onto the throttle there is definitely key. And that was key up front as well for a minute there. Karl Modhoff and Andrew Caron were like right nose to tail before they went into the chicane there and then come out on the backstretch. Separated out just a touch, though, over the half of the lap. But I think Caron, he's just trying to study Modhoff to see where he's strongest at right now. And I would anticipate possibly him trying to take advantage of him here in just a little bit if he can stay close.
Uribe not really doing much behind them, just trailing the two, kind of giving a little bit of a berth, enough that he can take evasive action if action starts to happen. I think we had a change of position between Maciera and Hefner. Hefner managed to get by down into 1 and 2.
And Stoke Power now all over Maciera, but we're going to take a look at that pass here.
Ducked out to the inside. You can see the Ferrari. Ooh, brave stuff. The white and black Ferrari on the black Ferrari manages to just sneak by. That's going to gift Hefner 7th place. For fans of Acosta, he's managed to get only up to 16th thus far. But he is trying to climb his way through the field. Next on his list is Matthew Tina.
Right now, Acosta all over the back of Tina. He's going to try to give himself a position here. See if he's able to do it.
Applying a lot of pressure.
Looking on the outside.
Tina doesn't defend. Acosta looks at the inside down and a spoon. Tough to make it pass into here. Oh, but it looks like Tina's going to go a little bit off. Goes wide on the exit of spoon. That was Valenzuela. And even still, with all those mistakes, Acosta can't do anything with these two.
I think a lot of it is that Acosta already knows he has a championship wrapped up. There's no pressure for him to try to move his way back through the field. So might as well not put anybody else in a bad position either. It's right there. Is Tina also got into Valenzuela in front of that.
That was Acosta in the wall that we were riding on board with.
I was just saying he wasn't going to put himself, put anybody else in a bad position, then put himself in a bad position.
Tina braking just a little bit earlier than he expected. Took evasive action.
I really think that was a chain reaction. I really think Tina broke a little bit differently than maybe what
Acosta?
Valenzuela broke a little bit earlier than what Tina was thinking, and went back to Abner Acosta there, to where he just kind of had to take evasive action and put it in the wall. Sitting over there tripping over myself already, Joe.
Yeah, Abner, I'm not sure how much damage he has from that. Unfortunately, that cost him time. Didn't lose him any positions.
Yeah, the BMW's a tank. He'll be okay.
The ever nicknamed Big Boy.
Yeah, I mean,
GTE Racing.
See the size of that thing.
A huge car. Let's go back up to the front. Remodov still being chased by Karen. Interestingly, Uribe's starting to fall off a little bit. It's a second between himself and the top two. He's got to try and stay with them, or else he'll lose an opportunity. Harwood behind, about 3 seconds back from the top three currently. They come up the backstretch towards 130R once again. We aren't even 10 minutes into this race. We've already seen a fair bit of action.
And I'll point out, too, that I do like the parity that we've got up front, too. First in a Porsche, Caron in a BMW, and Uribe in a Ferrari. So, just good parity.
For a second, I thought you were talking about satire, and then I had to think about it. Yeah, using a homonym there. As they come into 1 and 2, and Karen getting very close. Wow.
And he had to really drive that thing out of the corner, too, after he got a little closer than what he was wanting to. It almost broke loose on him, and amazingly didn't lose a terrible amount of time in the process.
But he is applying a lot of pressure to Karl Modov. And I'm not sure if he's going to be able to elicit a mistake from Karl. In season past, we've seen him manage to have errors of his own making, but on seasons before that, when he's done that, he's managed to recover and get the lead back. I just don't know. It's hard to tell what kind of Karl Modov we've got today.
And don't forget, I mean, last time out at Le Mans, I mean, he was a late race retiree. So, I mean, granted, some of that was like, oh, exactly no, but things do happen, and Modov's season has not been without drama in certain races as well. So, right now, though, I mean, I know he wants to end it on a high note, but Caron making sure he's the one that ends on a high note.
We got two car in the mid packs, one from 6th down to 8th, and then another from 9th down to believe 12th, I want to say. Kita at the back of that train. That's being led by Masieta, Corey Clark in there, Aroyan in 11th, and as I mentioned, the number 30 of Kita trailing them. Oh, they're getting awful close through 130R. I think Aroyan, oh, that was a big problem for Takeshi Kita. Had to catch the car coming out of 130R. Can we get an on-board? Whoa! That is a monster save.
I'm not 100% sure how he saved that.
Above, if we get a better angle. Oh, he locked him up. He put 2 feet in, and from there had the car straightened out, and he kept it from swinging into the wall. Now that lost him a lot of time, and now puts him under pressure from the number 9 of Rodrigo Munoz. Munoz has some trouble behind him with Cristobal Valenzuela approaching. Man, that was quick thinking from Kita. I don't think I would have been able to save that car.
Just expert level almost. I mean, the car was sitting almost 30 degrees off. I mean, so able to pull that thing back into a straight line. I mean, and losing nothing but time and a little bit of pride, and he still has a race car to continue on with. Hey, back up front, Carone is right back underneath the rear wing of Modov.
Certainly is. He's less than 0.3 of a second behind. Modov, for a while, covers the inside on the run down into the 130R.
I think he was doing the old snaking trick, trying to break up the draft.
Clearly, he does not want this situation. He wants to try and change things. So as he comes out of the final corner, across the line,
it really seems like to me, Joe, that he is great heading down the back straightaway, and right into about turn 15 there, 130R is where he excels. After that, though, it's like he kind of starts to back off just a little bit, just a couple of hundreds, not a lot. But between that whole area coming out of Spoon all the way down the back straightaway, that's just that is where Carone's going to be able to get Modov. That's going to be where it's going to happen.
So we follow this battle coming through Dunlop Curve. Looking stronger through this first portion of the lap. Modov gapping Carone by just a little bit. Looking through the field to see who some of our big climbers are as well. Because we've had some attrition. I would think we've got a few.
Yeah, we got a few. Really, Hefner, Border, and Stokebauer all running together are some pretty big movers. Indeed, right there, 7, 6, and 4 positions they've gained.
In fact, let's look at that fight. Stokebauer up at the front, Borda and Masieta. So a little bit behind those two, actually. Michael trailing Hefner, who he was close to a little bit earlier. As they come out of Spoon, Stokebauer trying to square off that exit. That opens the door briefly for Borda. He can't step through it. Coming up the steep climb of the backstretch, he stays in the slipstream. Could he have something into the Casio triangle? He's got to stay close in the wake of the car ahead. Oh, look, he just drops like a rock through there. Oh, but he closes under braking. Borda's got some wing cranked into that thing. Still not able to make an overtake attempt into the final chicane. Borda falls back on the run down the front stretch. He'll have to regroup and try again later. If he tries too much, that is Masieta, the third one in line that is ready to take advantage.
Yeah, while that's going on, Hefner's running away from him. Eisler's almost trying to fall back into the clutches of them.
Yeah,
just don't feel like he's running his best laps right now. lost about a second of the last lap to them, but at the same time, I really didn't see any reason why he would have lost that second. I feel like he just kind of needs to settle down and get back on pace here more than anything.
This really kind of tells the story of Eisler's season, though. He's in 5th, exactly where he started, and hasn't been making waves. As Acosta, who's been working on Tina for a number of laps, finally makes the overtake in a very unusual place. You're going to see it through Dunlop Curve, where Tina gets a little bit wide, and Acosta takes that BMW past the Ferrari, not waiting for a second chance. So that bumps him up to P15 with about a second up to Valenzuela up the road.
With Acosta's pace, that'll be made up in no time.
Yeah, but I would have thought with his pace we would have seen him at least partway through the field by now.
I really think he's just taking it easy right now.
Well, hopefully he's enjoying himself out there. Since we got a little bit of break between most cars, why don't we look at the very first incident, the replay into turn 1 where he lost the car. Maybe we can figure out, maybe he got touched. Was he all on his own? It looks like he's all on his own.
Yeah, just got a little high, got a little bit into the marbles up there and just lost traction.
All right, so he's the 4th car in line to the outside, the dark car that you see. It almost looked like maybe there could have been ghost contact between himself and the orange Ferrari. If it was very, very slight. But, I mean, hard to say. Otherwise, it looks like he just made his own mistake. And now he's, unfortunately, paying the price. Should be getting to that pit window relatively soon. With 43 minutes left on the clock. We're looking at the number 27, still looking to take his first win of the season. Thrown 11th in the points.
It's like
He's had 3 top 5s.
It's like every single time. It's like he falls back and he catches right back to him. Falls back just a little bit. It catches right back up to Modov. It's like, I just think he's biding his time. There's a lot of biding his time going on here. I think he has the pace to get around Modov. But of course, it goes back to the old racing adage, catching him one thing, passing him is another. But he could also be waiting for those pit stops. Maybe try to pass him, via pit stops. So, but that's going to take a lot of talent getting on and off pit road here, especially on. You already talked about how tight that pit entry is. One little mess up there, and it could end your day.
Yeah, do you think the straightaways are long enough that he could save enough fuel in the slipstream here? It's such a technical track.
I don't not necessarily by saving fuel. I mean, I'm thinking more along the lines of just better pit on and better pit off, more than anything. So, because right now, the difference between them is a matter of, a couple tenths of a second. It's not going to take much. So both those guys actually have to be on it.
Fortunately, Caron not in the championship despite his speed, mostly because he didn't show up at a number of races. As we take a look at the battle for 13th place, Rodrigo Munoz being chased by Valenzuela and Acosta, who's now caught them up. You're right, his pace certainly brought him up in a hurry. But yeah, so for Caron, he showed up 5 times, and as I said, 3 top 5s in those 5 tries so far. So that's a pretty good strike rate. If he gets a top 5 here today in his 6th try, that is 4 out of 6. That is, I think he should try and show up more often if his schedule allows next season. We watch on board with Valenzuela looking back at Acosta, applying quite a bit of pressure. We come down into Spoon. Abner maybe trying to set himself up for the run up the backstretch. A little bit off the apex for the number 33 of Valenzuela. Although he's slow up the hill, this doesn't look like Abner's close enough to really attack now. Stays with him through 130R. This time a lot better down into the braking of Casio Triangle. That looked like a great run out of Casio as well. Could Abner have a chance down into 1? Is he brave enough to try and stick his nose in? He's not gaining down the straight. This doesn't look like it's the time yet.
Almost seemed like to me like, maybe he was off throttle. Maybe not by a lot. Maybe only about 5-10%, just enough to just kind of stay back there and just waited out a little bit. I don't think he liked where he was going down the front straightaway.
He could be carrying some damage too. Maybe his straight line speed is a little down.
This is true.
That brush with the tire barrier cost him a little bit. It's so hard to tell in the dark. You almost have to wait for a car to get behind him to see the headlights to glance off of him. This is another good spot out of here and into the hairpin. He's close. Also can be sketchy with a car defending late. Valenzuela does not defend, but neither does Acosta attack. This is really one of the closest battles we've got on track. Despite these two being so close together, I guess because he hasn't really been taking any defense, they have not lost Munoz too much. This time, much closer up the backstretch, though. This is looking a little bit more likely for Acosta. He has to be within the slipstream at this point. He is less than a car length back. Look at how close he's trailing him. Coming up into the Casio Triangle, once again, does not stick his nose in.
It just doesn't even look like he's really wanting to try just yet. Yep.
Big.
There he goes.
Big bobble off the corner. He's taken the philosophy, Adam, it's easier to pass on the straight than it is into a corner.
Something like that. But, when the opportunity presents itself.
And too wide through 1 and 2. He's making it hard on Acosta. Valenzuela not trying to give this one up yet. Still has his nose in. Now he backs out of it as Acosta chops off his bow.
I was like, you probably don't want to do that going into the S-curves. That's not exactly the best passing zone on this racetrack, if you know what I mean. So, wise decision there.
Acosta showing he's still got it. That move 14th. I don't think we're likely going to see any sort of podium today the way things are going, though. Let's go up to 8th position because Fernando Borda is being challenged by Corey Clark. Corey making good on what was something of a poor qualifying, having put himself into 16th. He's up to 9th now, and actually he's just gained a position since last time by the line. He's overtaken Masiera, and he's looking at one more with Borda in front of him. Let's hold on before we check out the replay on that pass, because he is looking feisty, and he lifts before they get to 130R.
Hey, lead, we got to go to the lead. Here comes Carone.
And it's a defensive move for Karl Modov, covering off the inside down into turn 1. Carone around the outside. He has to slot back into line.
Oh, Carone's going to go for the over-under here. Not quite able to do it going into the S's.
Clearly, he is not content to sit back. Karl Modov is now going to have to deal with some even more pressure, knowing that Carone has got a pretty good car underneath him, good enough to go on the attack.
See, I want to point out, this isn't a matter of these guys like laying back or anything else. They're running some of the fastest laps in the race here at this point in time that they've had here in the last little bit. I mean, they pulled off some 53s and 52s right at the start. They're not slowing down at all compared to the rest of the field, even while battling. Modov is not making that much in the way of mistakes. But Carone just really hasn't been able to hang in there with them.
Canadian driver is looking to get his first win of the season. If you're just joining us, this is perhaps one of his best chances thus far, coming out of Spoon. Look at him take just the slightest of wider lines. Although coming off the exit, Modov taking a lot of that exit curbing, and that's going to keep him safe up the hill.
He's got the snaking pattern down to an art form now. Kind of took the kink there just a little bit hard. I don't think it hurt his time any, or hurt his position any. No, if he wheel hops there, going through the Casio triangle a little bit too much, that might hurt him a little bit.
No, I almost think it's in Modov's interest not to pit early in this case.
Oh no, if you're Modov, I think you just try to run it out at this point.
Yeah, because Carone, or at least pit when Carone pits, because it seems like that 27 is a little bit faster the way he's been running these last few laps. If he frees him up, that could be game over. It is a chess match here in Japan. Let's not forget Uribe. Even though he's dropped off, he's only 3 seconds behind now. It is incredibly small increments that he is losing to these top two. Take a look at actually how fast Modov is compared to Uribe. Look at the last 5 laps around. See, 2/10 here, 3/10 here. He was actually just about as fast on lap 12. Only 8 1/1000ths off. Really, the biggest loss he had was 4/10. And then it looks like the last 2 laps, maybe Uribe turning up the wick a little bit, trying to make sure he doesn't continue losing the way he had.
You know, and there's also the thing, too, that if something happens with those two while they're starting to race each other, I mean, even if it's just a simple bump or maybe they go off track a little bit, its slightest mistake up there could put Uribe right in the mix of this thing if he's able to stay somewhat close. And don't forget, Nick Harwood here lately has been ripping off some pretty good laps, too. You know, he's not completely out of the woods himself.
Ooh, this is Clark that we're looking at chasing Borda for 8th position. He's been working on this for a while. We had to duck away last time because of a challenge for the lead. They come down into the Casio triangle. And you know, you talk about hoping for something to happen, though we have had drivers. Oh, here we go. Great exit off of the final chicane, and Corey Clark, I think, is going to have it slipping to the inside. This looks very reminiscent of what we saw with Acosta before. I'm not sure that Borda is going to be able to fight back like we saw with Valenzuela. And indeed, looks like Corey Clark is going to be able to take that 8th position away. But you talked about the cars falling by the wayside and be able to take advantage. The only retirement we've had, Adam, is Leif Peterson. Everybody is out still running.
Yeah, which also we should mention, we mentioned right at the start there, you know, Michael Diaz ultimately did not join the race. But yeah, Leif Peterson's the only car out, the only car also not on the lead lap. So we still have 18 cars in this thing on the lead lap, but not just on the lead lap by a little bit. I mean, Pete Bratton's the last car in the lead lap, and he's still out there. He's still got a minute, you know, before he has to fall back into the clutches of the leaders. So, you know, so very, very actually relatively tight race. Even though, of course, Suzuka's big, so the cars are spread out a little bit in places, but still lots of racing to be done here as we get ready to enter the second half.
If we've got viewers who are just joining us, let's go back and look at Leif Peterson's incident. We didn't really get to go back and give a close look at this one. He was running to the back by Mo Broughton. See Mo Broughton then take off course. Not sure if he was trying to give the position back or he genuinely lost his braking point. Let's watch from on board Peterson now, looking back. Will Dougie's camera survive this one? Oh, just missed him. He doesn't have to pay for a new one. Those GoPros get expensive, Adam.
They do. Especially, you know, when we lose like 5 a race.
So we come back live. Can't see Peterson because his lights are off in the car. So as we go over to Corrode, our second place driver who has been glued to the bumper of Modoff. Oh, is Corey Clark had a problem? Corey Clark loses multiple positions in one corner. This was in turn 1.
Yeah, just got a little high, ended up having to catch the car, did the hospital wobble on him, but was able to get it straightened back out.
That is a real shame with the amount of progress that he's been making. Oh, he touched the AstroTurf. Fortunately, the Porsche snapped on him. It was a great catch to keep it from going around, but it was not until many cars had gone by. So that puts him down in 11th place. Also, since that happened, Kenny Rodriguez has come in, and is this a scheduled stop? He's been in for a long time. I do not think this is a scheduled stop. I think he would have been in and out by now. Trying to see if something happened to him, but I'm not finding it. It's really difficult in the dark to see if a lone driver had an incident. I think everybody's saved from embarrassment if they're off by themselves. Going back to the battle between Masiera and Borda, as well as Jeffrey Aronian. Don't forget behind them. Did Acosta have a problem just now? I saw someone going very slow. Oh, that was Corey Clark again for this second time in one lap.
Joe, here we go for the lead again. Corone on the attack. Almost had Modoff right there. Sorry to cut you off.
It's okay. We want to make sure and catch that. That was through the S's that he nearly got him. He was right plugged up behind him. Let's see if we can get 2 replays, both with the attempt for the lead and Corey Clark's incident. Who are we looking at first here? This is... Corey Clark just straight out braked himself into the Casio triangle. And then decided, screw this, I'm coming into the pit lane. He took a regular pit stop and he came back out. Now the action between Modoff and Karan. Corona Karan. We never really got a confirmation on how to say his name yet. Andrew, if you're watching, give us some sort of heads up. You saw this better than I did, Adam. Talk us through it.
Yeah, he just kind of gets a good run here. And Modoff isn't going to get the best entry. And, Carone's just going to go ahead and attack here. Kind of speaking ahead here a little bit, but you'll get to see it here in just a moment. Start heading off into the Casio triangle.
They work their way through. Spoon.
Yeah, I think we ended up a good ways back, but that's okay.
It's important with the way things have been between them. Keeping an eye on them live. Don't worry, nothing's happening between these two, so we're not missing anything. Ooh, look at him duck out like that. He's trying to get into the head of the Club West driver here.
Yeah, he is, but I think we can just go back to
and
live
Modoff
here.
Just lost it. Out of Degner 2.
Oh, man.
That was his own mistake.
He got up. I mentioned wheel hopping a few minutes ago, and he just caught that curb just right. He didn't lose a lot of time to Andrew Carone, but that changes things. Now Modoff's going to have to go on the attack here. Now we get a chance to really see if Carone's faster.
Yeah, you see that Porsche, hard to catch it when it gets into a slide like that. He did a good job saving the car, but he's already a second behind. This is Andrew's time to be able to start to pull a gap and prove whether or not he is faster than the 27. find out, not this lap, but next time by, because obviously this one is going to be slower from Modoff with his mistake. They come through to cross the timing line now. They didn't lose much to Uribe behind them, who was almost 5 seconds back. It is still just these two in the battle for the lead, and we're past halfway in this race, we should point out. If anybody is wondering what Acosta is doing with his recovery drive, he's up to 12th now. He gained that position from Corey Clark even before he headed into the pits. We did lose Kenny Rodriguez. He retired. We're still not sure what exactly happened to him. Clark has gotten back out. Valenzuela is our next driver to take a scheduled stop. All this, and Michael Diaz never did take to the track. He is now out of the server as well. So that second place certainly going to go to Modoff at this point. Let me double check to see if Eisler was chasing him. He was... Eisler doesn't look like he's really in a good position to be able to take that position away unless something really drastic happens to Carl. So that second place really should be Carl Modoff's at this point. So we look at the battle between Borda and Arroyo. This is for 8th position. One thing I love about the accuracy of iRacing modeling all of these GTE cars is just like the real life ones. They've got all these cool little lights inside that help the drivers see what in the world is happening inside the cockpit.
We need some of those outside the cockpit tonight. Yeah, so far, looks like Orion not able to gain too much on Borda here. Well, as soon as I say that, dive into the corner, the gap closes quite a bit. Orion got a much better entry, but Borda getting that drive off, you just kind of see him start to inch away there.
233. Oh, and Takeshi Kita's going to pit. We got another taker down the lane. Kita was a little bit ahead of Clark, I want to say. Not sure that he's going to be fighting him on the way out because of Corey's mistake. Kita hits his stall. Clark is just now coming up the backstretch. Clark did come out ahead of Valenzuela as well, so Clark is our highest pitter for the moment, unless Kita is able to come out ahead. Kita's moving. Clark is just now coming through the triangle, but Kita is past the timing line. He is back out and up to speed. So now Kita is our highest pitter. He returns in P15. Now,
going back to Nick Hardwood, going after Uribe here. Uribe is really falling back into the clutches of him. Nick Hardwood been able to rip off some good laps here lately.
Yeah, just our director behind the scenes mentioned it to us, and I was like, wait a minute, when did Hardwood catch Uribe? So this podium is not decided by any stretch of the imagination. I wonder how much pressure he can apply here. Oh no, Jeffrey Arroyo in Spoon Curve. He lost, I think, 2 positions with this error.
Looks like he just... Oh, and actually, who was that just missed him?
Checking real quick.
Sebastian barely missed him on the outside.
Watch. That always scares me even more. A car spinning ahead of you in daylight, having to miss is tough, but a car spinning in the darkness.
See, and I was looking at Orion there, and it's like as soon as his nose dropped for the brakes for the second part of Spoon there, it just went around on him under braking. Like almost like, the brake balance was off all of a sudden.
Yep. Arroyo's going to have to certainly tighten up his belt and try to make those positions back. We had a few more cars pitting. Modoff has been in and out. He takes the lead of the drivers who have finished their stops. Uribe has been in and out. Stogbauer just finished his. Munoz now in his stall currently. So is Matthew Tina. I think we're hitting the end of the pit window. So Tina it back out. Still waiting mostly on the upper half of the field to come in. Still waiting on Acosta to take his stop. Our leader is coming up the backstretch and through 130R right now. Does he respond? Does he have enough fuel to go any more laps than this as well?
Yeah, I got to figure he's right at the edge of the pit window.
He keeps going.
Yeah.
Maybe he did save a little bit of fuel behind Modoff.
That last lap for him was a 54.4. So we'll have to see what kind of times Modoff can put down once he gets out of his pit exit lap here.
Harwood enters. Eisler does. Hefner is in. Looks like Borda enters pit lane. Acosta as well. Sebastian Maciera stays out. And Arroyan is in. That leaves two drivers that have managed to make it to lap 23 here if they can get back to the line. This will also bring Modoff back up into third. This has got to be something of a frustrating season for Carl. Only 2 wins after he really, literally just dominated the past 2 seasons. Made it look easy. And Carl is chasing a driver who seems to have the measure of him today. The number 27. Not sure that he'll lose the lead here unless something dramatic happens.
And for what it's worth, off pit stops, Harwood was able to get around Uribe.
Oh.
So Harwood is now in front of Pablo Uribe.
Number 19 looking at a third place here. And Andrew is in. Our leader is now in the pits. Again, racing with Modoff. But I do not think that Modoff is going to be able to jump him in these stops. I haven't seen him really come out in any sort of traffic. He's been running by himself. Same thing with Andrew. Just running with a clear track in front of him. All the way up to the very second pit stall. Andrew was second on the grid.
For what it's worth, the pit in laps between Modoff and Andrew were pretty close. I think there was a couple tenths difference there, but that's about it. Here comes Carl Modoff down the front straightaway.
Andrew's out. And he started from third, correcting myself. Modoff up the pit lane. Now he's not going to get him. Andrew's already into 1 and 2.
Yeah, and what it ended up being is that first time lap after, Modoff ran a 55.8 while Andrew was still out there running 54s. So that's going to be your difference. Now all Andrew has to do is just run a clean race from here on out in the last 17 minutes.
There's the pit comparison between the two of them. About 2 seconds faster for the number 27 in his stall. Now, something has happened to Corey Clark because he's back in the pits again. And I'm trying to check to see if he had a big incident. If he did, it looks like it was a long time ago. No. Oh, yeah, he did. Not sure if we can pull this up because it was obviously about 2.5 minutes ago. But he hit the pit lane entry barrier. Let's see. Okay, they're heading through what looks like Spoon here. So, yeah, we'll see it out of the Casio Triangle. Not missing any action out on track right now. No battles currently happening. But Corey Clark, the teammate to Modoff, not going to be able to contribute to the team points today for Kokomoto Klar.
Ooh, and you'll see it here in just a second, but watch going through the Casio Triangle, the wheel hop once again.
Oh, yeah, he looks like he touched a bit of the grass and that spun his car to the right, and he unfortunately just had the car steer on him right to the wrong space. Yeah. Oh, man. Well, that puts an end to a miserable day for Corey Clark. Back to our leader, Andrew Caron. We asked whether or not he could get his first win. It's looking more and more likely. Let's run down through your order. Since we have all the pit stops done, Masiata came in while we weren't looking. With 15 minutes left, Andrew, as we mentioned, started in third. Had a great move at the start of the race to take second, and since then applied immense pressure until he got a mistake out of the car who was running behind him. Karl Modoff in the 948 has fallen well back. He has found someone who's got the measure of him today, and the 948 is going to finish this on 2 wins unless something drastic happens to the number 27, unfortunately. Behind him, it has changed hands recently. Nick Harwood now up into third, being able to use a little bit of strategy to jump the car who is now behind him to take a podium. Pablo Uribe is now slotted down into fourth. Uribe is the one who started in second on the front row. Good qualifying, just not the best race for the number 23. He's been dropping off of Harwood ever since that pass is about 1.7 back. Then I mentioned it a little bit earlier. This has been the typical drive of Christian Eisler, just running quietly, all by himself, not really in the action. And the 727 is looking at a top 5 because of that, but certainly not the challenges for wins that he's had in seasons past. What do the next 5 look like?
Well, next 5, we actually have the next 2 are both tied for 3-way tie for our hardest charges of the race. First up, Zachary Hefner running right now in 6th. He's up 7 spots from the start of this thing, and he has a good bit of distance with Eisler in front of him and Stogbauer behind him to be able to hold that position. And speaking of Stogbauer, also up 7 positions from the start of this thing. He's just been kind of running quiet race. I mean, he was kind of involved in some action earlier on, but once that pack he was in kind of broke up, he's just been running good, clean, consistent laps and hoping to bring home that top 10 here for today. We go a little bit back and you'll find Fernando Borda running in the 8th position, up 3 spots from the beginning of the race, taking advantage of some of the attrition there. And then going back to him, Abner Acosta. Abner Acosta, our champion here. He did not have the greatest start of the race, but looks like he's at least going to be able to recover into a top 10 position here as the rest of the race goes on. So good recovery drive there for Abner Acosta. And then back behind him, this is the biggest battle on the racetrack. Sebastian Marseille, followed by Takesha Kita. They right now are running in 10th and 11th. Joe?
You're right. This is our closest fight on track right now. Kita is starting to do his climb again. Started in 15th here today. He's in 11th, looking for a top 10. Let's see if he can do anything with Masiata. They come down through into the hairpin. Not close enough for an attack this time. He's only got 12 more minutes to try and make this overtake. Most of the drivers up ahead of him have found their own little piece of racetrack and are simply trying to run to the finish. Now up into Spoon Curve. This is where Kita's going to want to set himself up. See if he can get the run off. This is Porsche versus Ferrari. A good matchup. A classic matchup. Even here in the GTE world. As they come up the back stretch, he gets a little bit of the slipstream from Masiata's number 22. Not enough to really close up behind him. And in fact, he falls off out of 130R into the braking, into the Casio Triangle. Making their way down the front stretch. For these 2 drivers, Kita doesn't have a top 5 here today. Masiera, looking through his stats, also no top 5s for him. This is basically, essentially just for pride from here on out. They're not even close in the points. It's right on board with Kita looking from the nose. I always love these nose shots. So low to the ground, gives you a much better sense of the speed of these vehicles. Let's listen in as they weave through one of the more technical portions of the lap. Ooh, big bobble there from Kita. Coming out of Degner, too, did a good job saving it, but that cost him some time. He was a lot closer to Sebastian. So what was about half a second is now back up to 0.7 of a second between them. For those wondering, the lead is now stretched to 6.5 seconds. Andrew has got a firm grip on this one. He ticks off yet another lap ahead of the 9:48 of Karl Modhoff. Still going to be a podium for Karl. And this is going to be his 5th top 5. At least takes 5 out of the 10. Halfway strike rate for him. But again, only 2 wins for him this season if things stay as they are. Looking to see his podiums. Modhoff got one at Watkins Glen. And then he got another win at Mosport. Then he got another win at Lime Rock Park. Managed to snag a podium at Montreal. Missed out at Road America as well as Le Mans. So I think 4 podiums for him today, if my counting is correct. Or not today, this season rather. Riding on board with our leader. This BMW has looked incredibly solid today. I'm not sure that we've honestly really seen any mistakes from him at any point. This has been nearly flawless from the Canadian. He climbs up the backstretch towards 130R. Just 8 more minutes left to go. We've got 16 cars left on the lead lap. In fact, 16 cars left running. Corey Clark still taking repairs from that massive shunt that we saw earlier. He's been in there for 10.5 minutes, so I'm not sure that he's going to be able to get the car back out before this is all said and done. Notice that Takeshi Kita's closed back in a little bit on Masiera. It's come back down to about 0.5 of a second. So he's regained a little bit of that time trying to get into the top 10. We need to start looking into some top 10 stats on these. They give us a top 5. I keep track of the podiums myself, and they keep track of wins for us in this league. As well as fastest lap and poles. I'm curious to see for some of these drivers a little bit farther down the grid how they've been faring. Those top 10s, not always easy to come by, Adam.
No, they're not. You know, especially when you got a tight competitive field like this. You know, we were talking earlier. I mean, we were, you know, already about halfway through the race, and we didn't have anybody really truly a lap down yet. And really, we still don't. I mean, Pete Mobratton's still about 40 seconds away from being lapped on the racetrack instead of by incident or anything else. So, you know, when you got fields this tight, you know, 20-car field, I mean, it's tough. I mean, you can't make mistakes.
Masiera now under a lot more pressure. Kita has reeled him back into those 0.3 of a second that he had before. But this is where the mistake was last time. He lost ground out of Degner 2. Can he stay smoother now that he's gotten up behind him? That looks a lot better. And that car that you see kind of hovering in the background, that's Jeffrey Arroyan. He could yet still get into the mix.
Yeah, speaking of in the mix, Acosta right now, you know, he's all over the back of Borda. I think we might see another change for position here in just a little bit.
I think you're right. his recovery drive has managed to get him into the top 10. He's looking for 8th position here. As he could maybe run down Stogbauer, but it'll take a monumental effort to try and both get behind him and then also overtake, especially if he takes a while with Borda. He's only got 5.5 minutes left to do it.
Yeah, you know, and he hasn't really made super aggressive moves either.
Kita got to within 1/10 of a second and took a little bit of a look. That was in a 130R where he decided better of it and down into Casio. Unfortunately, not going to get a chance. Another bobble there from Masiera coming off the corner. He manages to get the traction, though. Costa got close down into turn 1. Much tidier down to the apron through 2.
Borda was definitely giving him room there. Ooh, wheel hop going through the S's, and Costa really backs off.
Yeah, aggressive on the curbs for the number 7 car. Fernando got to be careful here.
It's like Borda really does not want to give up that spot where Acosta's like, yeah, if I get it, I get it.
Fernando going to come up to another portion where you got to be aggressive on those curbs, and he is. He almost goes off course,
There he
and
goes.
now he goes completely off into the gravel. That hands it over to Acosta easily. Abner might help with the Spanish translation, but he's not going to translate the track for Fernando. Lets him fall away to the wayside. Next up, going to be Stogbauer for him.
Yeah, it's going to be tight if he's able to get to Stogbauer or not.
Let's take another look at the replay on that incident. Credit to Borda for keeping it from going worse. It's so easy with how much speed you have there to just fly into the tire barrier. Gonna have to back up a little bit farther. This is through the hairpin. Getting another angle on this one. You know what? I think it was exactly what we were talking about. He just was way to the inside of that first curb. Almost half the car over top of it. Stays in 9th place despite losing 1 spot. He doesn't lose 2 as Masiera next behind him, still fighting with Kita. Let's watch from on board Takeshi. Samurai still looking to see what he can do here. This has been a pretty decent run from the number 30 car. Hope he doesn't throw it away from here.
Yeah, that seems to be the trend, though. I mean, it's just a matter of, especially in the darkness here, I think the more and more that people put pressure on each other, the even more so than what we normally see, the more mistakes get made.
Let's stay with this battle, but just another update. Modov has now been dropped to 9 seconds back from Andrew. This has been incredible. It's very rarely that we see someone outpace Carl this impressively.
Go back and look real quick because that's a big gap between laps there. So I want to make sure nothing happened to Modov. And I don't see anything. I think he just had a rough lap time-wise.
Yeah, he's running consistent 55s and 54s. This last one was a 56, but I mean it's really nothing to write home about.
Well, that would have been the 2 seconds going from about 7 seconds down to 9 seconds the next lap. So there's your two seconds.
That makes a lot more sense. Well, you wondered about Acosta trying to pass Stogbauer. He's there. We got 2 laps to go.
All right.
Well, despite a lukewarm start to the race, I think Abner's come a little bit alive here and could maybe get himself into 7th. Follows him up to the turns 1 and 2. And
that last lap by Stogbauer was a 57, so I think he assisted in Acosta being able to catch up to him here.
Did something happen to Tina? Matthew Tina has been great out on my timing and scoring.
I found it. Stogbauer went through the gravel, through the S's that last time by. So that's why Acosta was able to catch up to him so quickly.
I'm not sure what happened to Tina. May have run out of incidents because Tina simply disappeared, and Munoz is gone as well for unknown reasons. As we
Munoz pulled off a second ago and just retired. I did catch that.
Mysterious happenings here in the dark as we ride on board with Abner, looking up ahead. Oh, getting awful close through the hairpin. He's going to make note of that for next lap. We're getting the white flag right now for Carone. There goes Andrew, up to 11 seconds. That's 2 more now. It's been a bad couple of final laps for Karl Modoff.
Here goes Acosta around Stogbauer.
He's got the car to the inside of him into 130R, and Stogbauer tries to fight it, but to no avail. He's still close behind as they come up to the Casio Triangle. He doesn't even stick his nose out to attempt to pass, though. He's going to let him have it. That moves Acosta up to P7 from dead last on the field after the first lap.
Nikita's right there on Sebastian as well to try to get into the top 10.
So we jump over to that battle. Number 30 hounding him. A little bit of a defensive move at first down the front stretch from Masieta, but he comes back to the racing line. Kita now ducks to the inside. Has a look, but not a serious move. This could go all the way down to the last chicane between these two. We'll jump in once Andrew gets close to the finish line. We still got a little bit of time as we watch this battle work its way through the S's. Kita's got a couple more opportunities up ahead of himself. Into Degner. And then out of Degner. He needs a good run into the hairpin. Not sure that he's got a good enough of one. We've got to go away, though, because Andrew Carone out of the Casio Triangle with a 11-second gap back to Karl Modoff is going to take the victory, his first of the season. Karl will settle things out with at least a second-place finish, but it was just not to be today. Kita and Masieta close. And they're closing in on Borda. Is Borda short on fuel? How did they catch him all of a sudden?
He's ran a 59, a 56, and a 57 the last couple laps. It might be fuel.
Down into the final chicane. Masieta gets close. He gets very close. Can Borda make it to the line? I think he's got just enough to take 8th place. 9th will go to Masieta, and 10th to Kita. Oh, excuse me, no. 9th to Borda, 10th to Masieta, and 11th to Kita. Rowan was right behind them at the line as well. He takes 12th. The last two cars to cross will be Valenzuela and Mo Broughton. But that is going to be our race for today and wrap up the season. But we're not done here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We've got the unofficial results as well as driver interviews coming up. But before that, you'll see all of the upcoming races here on the GSRC on your screen. So don't go away.
40 of the best sim racers. $100,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge? This is the most competitive and sought-after season in iRacing World Championship history. This is where legends are made. This is the Porsche Esports Super Cup.
Welcome back to Suzuka International Racing Course, where hopefully you'll be able to see a little bit of the track some point here. But we did get to see a lot of action out there, and including some great battling for the lead, which wound up in the favor of Andrew Caron. He took his first win of the season ahead of Karl Modhoff, who finally lost the championship after 2 times in a row, being up at the top spot. He lost it last round. He did come back to take a podium, at least here, his 5th on the season. And 3rd place, the last of the podium, goes to Nick Harwood. Really, we need to give him more credit. We didn't get to watch him a whole lot. Thankfully, we did get to see his fight with the driver that finished behind him, Pablo Uribe, who takes 4th after starting 2nd on the grid, needing to work a little bit on his race pace. Christian Eisler, again, a quiet 5th place. That's where he started. That's where he finished. Can't complain about that. Zach Hefner going from 13th to 6th. Great run from Hef. Abner Acosta with a 7th place after an error in the very first turn. Not the race that he probably wanted to celebrate his victory, but still a nice 7th for him. Michael Stogbauer finishes in 8th, having climbed from 14th, with Fernando Borda taking 9th. Masier, another driver that finished where he started, rounding out your top 10.
In 11th, Takashi Akita, and 12th, Jeffrey Orion. I mean, they came across the line pretty close to Masier and Borda, so very tight battle there for 9th on back to 12th. Cristobal Valenzuela finds himself in 13th position. He was a good ways back. Pete Broughton rounds out the cars that finished on the lead lap. Matthew Tina, Rodrigo Muniz, Corey Clark, Kenneth Rodriguez, and Leif Peterson all finding themselves in trouble at some point, race-ending trouble for the most part, and Michael Diaz did not take the green flag.
We've got our 2nd place finisher ready to talk to us, Karl Modhoff, who not only takes 2nd here today, but 2nd in the points with Diaz not starting the race. It wasn't a win out there, but you had a good run for your money from Andrew Karl. How do you feel about getting a podium to wrap things up this season? Karl, you got a copy?
Hey, yeah, sorry, I'm pressing my iRacing button over here. Yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with that. Andrew was really fast from the get-go. I couldn't get away from him at all, so I was just going to try and hold on to it as long as I could, knowing that it's hard to pass. But once he got by, my rear tires started kind of going away, and he had much more pace. So it was really fun, good race to end the season on. Congrats to Abner for the championship. He had a great season, so congrats to him. I'm going to be missing the next season, probably take a little break. But I want to thank the guys at PRL for organizing the championship, and then you guys for the broadcast team. I've done 4 in a row, and you guys have been there the whole time, so I appreciate it.
Sad that we won't have you back for round 2, of course, with Acosta. But regardless, we can't really put this season down too much. You had 5 podiums out of 10 rounds. A half strike rate is no mean feat. Most drivers would give their right arm for being able to race like that.
You know, I feel super thankful. Yeah, 4 seasons, I had 2 wins, 2 second places. But it's a lot of work, week in and week out. You know, you kind of feel almost chained to it, because if I'm going to race, I want to do well. So if I'm on iRacing, I'm only running that week's race, even if I don't really want to. So that's why I'm taking a week off, just so I can kind of bounce around on different cars, have a little bit more enjoyment. Not that I don't enjoy the league, I love the league, but it kind of becomes a little bit taxing. So I'm going to take one off, but I'll definitely see you guys in the future.
Everyone needs a vacation every once in a while. Before we let you go, since we won't see you for a bit, is there anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank, my family. They always watch every week because they're huge race fans. So thanks for the support. And thanks to Molecule Sports. And then also thank to Corey Clark, my teammate. We've been teammates for the last few seasons now, and he's made all the paint jobs and helped with setups, and just been someone that I can complain to back and forth, both of us. So he's been a huge help. So thanks, everyone. I'll see you around.
All right, that was Carl Modoff, second place in the points and on the track here today. Up next, Adam is going to be talking to Nick Harwood.
Hey, Nick, great race there with Pablo Uribe, especially at the end, able to leapfrog him there during the pit stops and then start pulling away. Go ahead and tell us about how you're able to get him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great race for me. Tell you what, the whole race I was kind of on an island until I caught Pablo there for the pit stops. And, this track it's tough to stay focused, especially at night when you're out there kind of on your own. So it was real tough to stay focused, but I just tried to save the car as much as I can, save the tires, save as much fuel as possible, and I think that strategy worked. I was able to skip them in the pits and luckily stay ahead of them.
And you mentioned the darkness out there. How much of a role did that play in how things played out here today?
Yeah, we don't get the opportunity to drive this track very often in the dark, so it was a game changer, I think, for a lot of folks. It changes your practice, your braking points. You got to find new points, new landmarks and things. But, for me, I didn't have a whole lot of time to practice, to be honest with you, so it didn't throw me off too much. And with the cool track temperatures, it made it a little easier to save the tires. And on this track, it can bite you, tires start to go, and so in that regard, it wasn't a bad thing.
Well, this is ended up being your second podium here of the season. Gives you good momentum going into next season. We're going to see you back around here at the PRL.
Absolutely, really love the league. So looking forward to next season. Hopefully my work schedule will allow me to make more races, but yeah, thanks to PRL and you guys for a great broadcast. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, we appreciate you too, Nick, as well. And you try to have yourself a good off season, and we'll see you back around.
Thank you, guys.
Our third place finisher, Nick Harwood. And next we have our winner here to talk to us. And my first question to Andrew before we get to things is, how do we correctly say your last name so that we can get this one?
Oh, well, you can say Karen.
Karen. Okay. Yeah. We'll go with that then. First of all, congratulations. I have to admit, when you get your first podium of the season, you do it in style. I was kind of surprised looking through to see that this was your first one, but you finally got your first victory. It took you all season long.
Oh, yeah. I did a lot of practice on that track, and it's a track that I love a lot. In the first part of the season, my PC was broken, so I did skip 3 or 4 races at that point. So I didn't have I couldn't practice during that time, so it took me a little bit of time to get back to where I was.
What really seemed to set the tone for the race for you was that race start where you suddenly found yourself in second place right away. Did you intentionally try to make sure you get a little bit of an aggressive start to challenge Pablo into turn 1, or was that just kind of a spur of the moment thing?
I think it was just at the moment because I just saw the opportunity, but I wouldn't go for a dive there for sure. But there was space, so I went for it.
Then from there, you had to deal with Carl up ahead of you. You waited incredibly patiently until something opened up. Did the thought ever occur to you to try and take an alternate pit strategy, see if you could jump him that way? Did you feel like you were fast enough that you could pull that off, or did you feel like it was better to do what you did, where you just kind of wait for him to make a mistake and walk through the door?
I just think our pace were pretty similar, so I didn't see any opportunity to pass him before the pit. So I just went for saving fuel, and then I tried to do as best as I could when he was at pit. I did. I think I did save quite a bit of fuel though.
Well, you said that you had some PC problems that obviously will hurt your hopes of trying to fight for anything in the championship this season. But with things starting over, will you be back to see if you can challenge Acosta?
I would like to. I'm right now. I'm running in 4 leagues at the moment, so it's kind of hard. But this is really fun though, because you get to do the official race and then just go for a race with you see the same person every race. That's something that I really like.
Well, we hope we continue to see you every race as you've given us some good excitement this season. Again, congratulations on that maiden victory.
Thank you so much. I would like to say thanks to all my teammates and my sponsor, Buttkicker, and Formula Hypersoft News. They've been a big help for me, and I think well, I like my teammates.
Awesome stuff. That was Andrew Caron, who took the win here today. And now we finally know how to say his name right. We kept going back and forth, not sure where to take that one. But we got to close up for the season with a big thank you as well to our sponsors for this show. Of course, to SIMSA, that is the Simulation Motorsports Affinity. You can find them at simsa.net to see if you can get involved and get yourself into the international sim racing community. Also, to Buttkicker. Remember, they put some prizes on the line this season. Acosta's going to have to try and tell which of those two that he wants for himself, winning the Drivers' Championship and the Teams' Championship for his team as well. Obsidian gets some t-shirts from Buttkicker. Also, a thank you goes out to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe. All you got to do is click the big red button. You won't miss a moment here on the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Graham. We have already been in talks for next season, and we should be able to come back, although we do not know what the race will be since we're waiting on iRacing's schedule, but it'll be September 17th for the first round for the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. We'll keep you up to date when we find out when that track is announced. That'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.